Most people don't realise how much they're paying in super fund fees. So right now I'm going to show you exactly how you can calculate the fees you are paying and determine whether or not they could be too high. Hi there, I'm Chris Strano, the founder of SUPERGUY, the place where Australians go to maximise their super and build their own retirement plan. If you're new here, make sure that you click that subscribe button. There's also some links below this video that you might find useful. Also, if you get value in this video, click the thumbs up button. It's a little act that makes a really big difference. And remember, this is general advice only, so you should consider whether it's appropriate to your personal needs and circumstances before acting on it. Let's dive in. Most people don't have a clue what super fund fees they're paying, and to be honest, I'm not surprised, because trying to interpret how your super fund charges fees isn't always easy. But let's try and make it easy. In this video, I'm going to show you the main types of fees that will make up the bulk of, if not all of your super fund fees, and then you can determine whether they're too high or not based on some guidelines. So thanks to some increased competition and more super products becoming available over the past decade or so, super fund fees are reasonably low, if you can find the right funds. There are definitely still some very expensive super funds out there, but most of them are becoming quite cost effective. The most basic way of determining whether your fees are too high or not is by converting your fees into a percentage of your total balance, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. Now, just to begin with, I'm only talking about retail and industry super funds at the moment. So, such as examples, Australian Super, Host Plus Super, CBUS, as an example of industry funds, and BT, MLC, Asgard, AMP, Macquarie, for example, as retail funds. I'm not talking about self-managed super funds. If you're not sure if you have a self-managed super fund or not, there's probably a good chance you don't. If you receive a superannuation statement in the mail with some type of logo on it, then pretty good chance you don't have a self-managed super fund. If your accountant runs your superannuation for you, then pretty good chance you do have a self-managed super fund. Okay, so I will talk about SMSF fees at the end of this video, but for now we're just going to talk about retail and industry funds. So basically there's two types of main fees that you'll be paying within super. There's administration fees, which include like member fees, account keeping fees, and so on. And there's investment fees, including fund manager fees, investment option fees, etc. The combined amount of these fees will usually be around 1% of your account balance, give or take. And this is probably, these days, this is probably at the top end. For a balance of around $500,000, 1% would be at the top end. So for example, on a balance of $500,000, your super fund investment and administration fees might be around $5,000 each year. And this will usually be made up of around 1/3 in administration costs and 2/3 in investment costs. So if your total fees are $5,000, the administration might represent $1,700 of this, and the investment fees would be about $3,300 of the $5,000. Now, these figures and percentage amounts I'm giving you are extremely general, but it does give you a good benchmark to assess the level of fees that you're paying. One thing to keep in mind is that this full amount isn't deducted from your super balance, so you won't necessarily see it. For example, the administration fee of $1,700 in the example I just used will be deducted from your account balance. But the investment fee is usually taken out of the investment option pool that you have chosen to invest in. So let's say you invested in the balanced option in your super, and the investment manager earns, say, 5.6% for a year. He'll keep, for example, 0.6% of the return and pay you the remaining 5%. Does that make sense? So the investment fee is usually deducted from the investment. Yes, even if the fund manager earns a negative return for a particular year, he still takes his fee or her fee. So this investment fee isn't a fee that you will actually see in the transaction list on your superannuation statement. However, the admin fee or the account keeping fee or the member fee or whatever you want to call it will be visible in the transaction list because it's deducted directly from your account. Okay, so the ballpark 1% fee can be used as a bit of a guide as to whether your fees are too high or not. You can even break it up between the investment fee and say, I should be looking for a benchmark of about 0.66% investment fee and an admin fee of 0.33%, and then compare that against what you're paying. But like any rules, there's always exception to the rules, and this is really just a guideline. So let's begin with administration fees. With administration fees, if you have a low balance, like say under $30,000, you might be paying more in percentage terms as an administration fee, because most super funds will have minimum fees. So they might have a fixed member fee of, $200, which will equate to a higher percentage on a lower balance, whereas it will be a lower percentage on a higher balance. So minimum administration fees on small balances may make the percentage disproportionate. But it also works the other way too. Many super funds have maximum administration fees that they will charge. So if you have, say, $2 million in super, your administration fee expressed as a percentage should usually not be more than, say, 0.1%. In fact, 0.3% on a $2 million balance is actually really high. So this is some exceptions to the rules. And because most super funds provide essentially the same service, some funds will have more investment options and better features, but ultimately they're not all that different. There's not a whole lot of value that your super fund can offer against its comparable rivals. So paying high admin fees to a super fund is inexcusable. Investment fees, on the other hand, okay, so I mentioned that these should be around 0.6%-ish. This is a real generalization though, because if you choose to invest in, say, direct ASX listed shares, well, you don't pay any investment management fees, do you? Unless you have an actual professional running the portfolio for you. If you invest in an index investment option, which all they do is replicate the relevant benchmarks like the ASX 200 and the S&P 500 and so on, these funds will only charge somewhere between, say, 0.1 and 0.4%, so lower than the benchmark I said of 0.6. So these guys are on the lower end. Then you get active multi-mix funds, such as, your balanced option or your growth option. These investment options invest in a range of asset classes, so they have a little bit of shares, property, fixed interest, and so on, and they make all the investment decisions on your behalf. And because these funds are trying to get a better return than the index, not always succeeding, but because they're trying to, their aim is to provide better returns in the index, so they might charge somewhere between, say, 0.5% and 0.8% for their service, with the idea being that the extra cost compared to an index fund will be covered in extra returns. Like I said, though, this is definitely not always guaranteed. And finally, you have highly specialist managers. Again, these managers, these type of investment managers will be trying to outperform the index, but they'll generally only invest in one asset class. So they might be like an Australian shares specialist or a property specialist, whatever it is. And these type of funds will charge anywhere from, say, 0.3% all the way up to 2%. Again, with the intention on covering the increased fee with increased returns, but not always. All right, so that's a pretty good starting point to understand whether the fees you're paying are too high or not. I just want to quickly show you an example of how this is applied and with various investment options through a product disclosure statement offered by a superannuation fund. Okay, so what I want to show you here is an example of the administration costs and investment costs of a superannuation fund known as Asgard ERAP Super or Asgard Infinity ERAP Super or Pension. This is just being used as an example for no other reason than it sort of shows the fees quite clearly. It's obviously not a recommendation or anything like that. I'm not suggesting anything. It's just something that I'm using as an example. So product disclosure statement will have everything that you need to know about the super fund in it. And I'm just going to scroll down to the administration fees section and give you an idea of what's involved. So if we have a look here, we've got administration fees. So these are the account fees, I guess. They don't charge an account fee on an investment fee as an account fee. They do charge investment fees, which we'll get to in a minute. But administration fees. So you can see here that the first $750,000 of a balance is charged at 0.3%. And for anything over $750,000, it's charged at 0%. So that's for the core administration fee. Now they have a few different investment menus. So there's a core menu, and then if you wanted a wider range of investment options, you could go for the select menu, which adds 0.15% on top of the 0.3, which means you're now paying 0.45. Or if you want the full menu, which gives you access to a very large range of investments, you pay an extra 0.2%, so a total of 0.5% administration fees. You can also see here the share account fees. There is a minimum administration fee of $75, expense recovery fees, which are also deducted, buy-sell spread fees, and so on. So they do have a investment options booklet, which I'm going to take you to now, which sort of breaks down and just simplifies it all. So this is the Infinity ERAP Managed Investments menu. So what it does here is it says, here's your core menu, 0.3, select menu, 0.45, and full menu, 0.5. And it tells you how many investment options that you have available to you, depending on which menu you choose, which influences the administration fee. So just to give you an example, the core menu includes these funds, and these are the investment fees. So these are the fees I was talking about that might be, 0.6% on average. You have these funds to choose from. So these fees are added to the administration fees. If you chose the core menu and paid 0.3% in administration fees and you wanted to invest in, say, the balanced multi-blend fund, you would pay 0.5% on top of the 0.3, giving you a total of 0.8% in fees. This 0.5% would be deducted from the managed fund pool of assets before a unit price is declared. So that's the fee that you don't actually see coming out of your account balance. It comes out of the investment returns. There's also some index options here. So we've got the BlackRock indexed options, which also form part of the core menu, and they're all charged at 0.2% because they're index funds, which generally have lower fees. If we scroll down now to the second page, they show what type of investments are available in the select menu. So this is for additional administration fee of 0.15. And you can see that they're up around anywhere from sort of 0.4% to, 1.5%, depending on which fund you wanted to invest in. And this page goes on and on and on because there's much more investment options that you can choose from. And you can have a combination of any of these, and it just gets, the fee gets charged proportionately based on how much you have in each fund. And then we've got the full menu. Because the full menu is so large, they don't actually include it there, but you can see when you open up an account what's available. So I thought that might give you a good idea of just how the administration fees and the investment fees are broken up. So administration fees are these fees, and then you add to it any of the investment management fees on top of that to get your total fee. So basically, the important thing is that you usually don't want to be paying more than, say, 0.5% in super administration fees and, around the 1%-ish on investment fees in total. All right, I also promised to discuss self-managed super funds. Now, these are a bit more expensive to run, but many of the SMSF fees are flat fees and not percentage-based. So what that means is that the larger your balance, the lower your effective fees are in percentage terms. So generally, SMSF administration fees should be no more than, say, $5,000 each year. But it will depend on what you hold within your SMSF. If your investments are relatively simple, like maybe ASX listed shares, you shouldn't be paying more than, say, $2,000 to $3,000 a year in administration costs. But if you own investment properties or commercial properties or other types of investments that require an accountant to do more work, then you're probably looking more around the $4,000 or $5,000 each year. But this should include, all of your ATO fees, ASIC levies, audit fees, tax returns, financials, and so on. But any investment fees will be in addition to these fees. So if you invest in managed funds or have an investment property with running costs and so on, those fees will be in addition to the administration fees, accounts and account fees, levies, and so on. If you're not sure how much you've paid in fees within your SMSF, get a hold of either the statement for a full financial year of the main bank account within your SMSF and add up all of the fees paid to your accountant, ATO, ASIC and audit fees and administration fees and see what it all adds up to. Otherwise, have a look at the last year financial statements and all of the expenses should be listed under the heading Operating Expenses. So there you have it. Are your super fund fees too high? Let me know in the comments below. If you learned something new from this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this. If you want more exclusive superannuation tips, head over to superguy.com.au and sign up to my newsletter for free. We also have plenty more videos on superannuation and retirement planning in the SuperGuy Hub, including stacks of tutorials, super strategies and case studies to help boost your super and retirement plan. Go to superguyhub.com.au. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.